You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com. Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday, all about casual conversations for serious workflows, brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, which is where you can keep learning QuickBooks your way, however you see fit. How are you, Rachel?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Before we get into our topic of today, which is all about modern reports, because we love reports as accounting professionals, and when somebody changes reports, that's a touchy subject.
Yeah, I was just fighting with a report minutes ago.
We'll get into that in a minute, but I wanted to talk a little bit about I don't know how to describe it, but we've been talking about your Intuit login and how your Intuit accounting professionals are susceptible to logins being compromised, and when that happens, especially in QuickBooks the QuickBooks Online space, that's the center of a spider web for bad actors that are out there. Now I'm not talking like Matthew McConaughey bad actors. I'm talking about that was the first name that popped up. He's not a bad actor.
How dare
I'm not talking about horrible actors on screen. I'm talking about bad actors, hackers, people who are looking to take advantage of people who are susceptible to getting their login compromised. And we had talked.
Yeah. And hacking is always usually gone in through the username, and that way, I've recently learned.
Yeah. And the big thing is that as an accounting professional with access to, several, if not hundreds, of QuickBooks Online subscriptions, and now that Intuit is doubling down on integrated services like QuickBooks Payments, QuickBooks Bill Pay, real money movement, payroll, that allows people to have access to that. And there's a lot of posts and horror stories on social media where their login was compromised and it just made a terrible mess.
Yep.
And last weekend, or last Friday, on the unofficial QuickBooks accounting podcast, which I'm a special guest host with Alicia Katz-Pollock, we had a very good discussion about security and the login security. After that was recorded, a new thing started happening.
Oh boy.
Because of the fear, and the fear is not false evidence appearing real. This is a real thing where people have posted that their login has been compromised and it's such a headache. And unfortunately, the Intuit stance is, well, you should be more careful.
Right. Now let me make sure I understand clearly. So are you referring to business owner users of QuickBooks Online or accountant users that may be dealing with multiple QuickBooks files?
Both, right?
Both. Okay.
anyone that has a login to a QuickBooks Online subscription is susceptible.
Okay. Because
So,
even accountant users, we have one login and we go into QuickBooks Online.
mhm.
We then have access to many different QBO files, but I'm guessing if me, a QBO Online accountant, not advanced, user has their login compromised, that person may have access to all the different QBO files that I do.
Yeah, and
That's a total nightmare.
oh yeah, and now recently, QuickBooks has put as part of their in the know updates is that QuickBooks Bill Pay, the free one, is already included in all QuickBooks Online subscriptions. I hope I'm not giving bad actors some ideas, but hey, if they access an accountant's login who has access to 50 different QuickBooks Online subscriptions that now have a free bill pay service already enabled or
Yep.
half enabled, it's not the accountant or somebody needs to fill out the rest of the information. But assuming that is already set up or activated, somebody could go pretty much down your client list and go, okay, I'm going to create myself as a vendor and I'm going to send myself $999 because $1,000 is a felony.
Yeah.
And they'll just do that down the list. And now they've got $500,000 essentially coming to them out of their clients only because they were able to get into a login.
Yep.
So it's very paramount for an accounting professional to make sure that their login is secure.
Yep.
So after all of this issues were brought up of people being, and there is a login vulnerability for people to be able to reset some of that contact information, the email, phone number, by forging documents, because the only thing that you need to be able to reset that, if you don't have it, is the email, the contact information, which you pretty much make available on your website, right?
Yeah.
As an accountant, and a government ID. And there's been a whole business of falsifying documents.
And
right?
You're saying somebody could take those things to Intuit and potentially reset your password.
Yeah, they can reset the contact information, the email address or phone number that the codes go to, the MFA codes, and that's what we want to talk about is the changes there, because that leads into the new sky is falling panic du jour is revolving around the multi-factor authentication. There's this new thing called a passkey, and we have a blog article about what the passkey does, and we talk about it on the unofficial QuickBooks Accountant podcast, which will be coming out probably either this week or next. So look forward to that. But if they have those two pieces of information, even just the email address, which is pretty much available, it's easy. And then all they have to do is go in and provide a government form of identification to be able to prove who they are as you, and then they change the email.
Wait, so you're saying they can even present a falsified ID because it's not like they're Zooming with you, looking at you and verifying that the ID is you? Because they do that with Amazon, just FYI. If you're an Amazon accountant going in that way. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, Intuit doesn't do that bad.
Right. So really, something really should change, because I was like, what's the problem? But on banks, right? So if you've forgotten your password and it's on a bank, you have to provide some other information in order in order to go through the
That's
process
right.
of resetting your password
Yeah,
or
don't they
updating
need
your content.
2 forms or something like that? They need
Usually they'll ask for something that is account related, like your debit card number or
Yeah.
what you would have from a statement or
And if it were really
have.
yours, you would
Right.
have those things
It's just
readily
not
available.
it's just not contact information that might be readily available. It is something about the account. So if Intuit asked the company ID or something, the last 4 of the EIN or something that would be a little bit more another layer of, unfortunately for people doing it, is another layer of complexity.
It
Oh,
is, but
it,
I would gladly do that. I would have thought they would at least ask for a company ID.
no, the only thing, like if you don't have access to the email address, like your office manager, for example, set up your payments account because you delegated that to an employee, and then they leave the company, so now you don't have access to that
Right.
email address.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is to reset that email address, and all you have to provide is the email address, the old email address, the new email address that you want it to, and then a form of identification. Now, I don't know, because even when I worked there, I didn't even know, what they do after they get that to confirm that you are who you say you are. Again, data mining is a real thing. The dark web
Yeah.
is a real
It
thing.
is. It is,
Data
although I feel
breaches
like I'm a
are
step
a real
ahead though
thing.
because I use an unknown email address. My what's on my
That
website and things like that.
Yeah.
But I can see how maybe some not as tech savvy folks don't.
Right.
And oh my gosh, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I remember when in QuickBooks Online Accountant, I was one of the first 4 agents to support QuickBooks Online Accountant when it first came out. And the main thing that it was solving for was to separate accountants from using their client's login.
Right.
Because that's
Yeah.
what they would do, is they would just, all right, let me log into your QuickBooks Online, give me your login,
Yeah.
I'll just do it as you, and blah, blah, blah. So Intuit started to segregate the Intuit or the accountant from the user, and to incentivize them, let's give you some accountant only tools.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and undo the reconciliation, which was a big thing, a pain in the behind when you had to undo the reconciliation. So that was like the first feature that accountants got. It was like, okay, all right, I'll get my own login.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing back in 2013. So I'm dating myself there. So fast forward to today. Okay, so we've gotten this login vulnerability potential, right? So on the heels of that, people are like, okay, I really should make sure that my login is secure. Great. So what do? They go into QuickBooks or their Intuit account, which you can access it either from inside of QuickBooks Online directly, or you can go to Intuit accounts, right? It's accounts.intuit.com. And there you can manage your login, all of the things, right? So you can change your password, you can update your email
Yes.
address, you can
And I've been
verify.
there
Yeah.
with the help of you.
Now, there's 2 things that are in there, and it's caused another fervor about, oh my goodness, something was hacked at Intuit. Right? I reached out to the folks at Intuit, and they've created a really nice article, which I've shared in the comments. And so let me just go ahead and let me get rid of that QR code there for the earmark. And we'll share the screen here. And this is all about the difference between multi-factor authentication and 2-step verification. Right? So there actually is a difference, right? So what would happen is people would go in and log in to make sure that two-factor authentication was turned on and see that it was turned off and go, oh my goodness, somebody hacked my account because they've turned off the two-factor authentication. The end result of multi-factor authentication and two-step verification is the same. When you sign in, you get a code. And we've all seen that. You get a you get a code, six-digit code sent either to your email or your phone number. But when you sign in to QuickBooks or the account, excuse me, I'm getting all choked up. When you sign in to QuickBooks or Intuit, your Intuit account, and check that preference, there are two things in there, and one is multi-factor authentication and set up two-step verification, right? So this article here explains very nicely the difference between the two, right? So multi-factor authentication, and it's really hard to read because they decided to put it in a lighter colored font here, but multi-factor authentication is not optional, right? You will always get a code when you log in for the first time on something, right? So when something is new, you will get a code to verify who you are.
Yeah.
And that will either come to your email or your phone. So this is a mandatory feature. You don't have the ability to turn this on or off.
And are you saying that's usually always in the beginning setup?
Yeah.
With things?
Yeah. I get this a lot because as someone who lives and works in a fifth wheel, I am always, next week we'll go to Chicago. And so I'm going to sign in to QuickBooks Online, and it's going to detect that I'm signing in from Chicago, not from Michigan anymore. And so it will ask me for a code, right? You may have daily purges of your internet cookies and temporary internet files, which will basically the next day, right? You sign into QuickBooks Online, it appears as if you're signing in for the first time.
Yeah.
So that's falling into the bucket of multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
So anytime that you are doing something new to Intuit, with Intuit, by signing in, it will ask you and send you the code. Two-step verification is something optional, right? And that is something that you have to set up and turn that on. But that basically means that every time that you sign in, you want to get that code, regardless of whether you've done it before or not. Right? So that is a setting that you can turn on. And by default, it's turned off, right? So people may be getting these codes due to multi-factor authentication because they are doing something new at Intuit for the first time, whether it's a new day, a new location, a new login, a new whatever, right?
Or sometimes I am even in the same Google Chrome profile, but I'm going back and forth between my desktop and laptop, and oftentimes it'll make me redo the whole thing again.
Every time I do a conversion, even though I've signed in on the same damn computer, it asks me to prove who I am. And that's multi-factor authentication, not the two-step verification. Right. So this article and this community post here is really nice explanation of the two. They even have a nice video from some Intuit folks embedded in here to talk about what it is. And then on top of that, there is this new sign-in option called a Passkey. And as we talk about on the unofficial QuickBooks Accountant podcast, passkeys actually are designed to replace both your password and that multi-factor authentication code that you get.
That's a browser thing, though, isn't it?
It is a computer thing and an Intuit server thing. So basically, the way we explained it is like war games, like where you need two different keys in order to launch the nuclear weapons, right? So that's what it is. There's something that you have on your machine or your mobile device, and there's something that Intuit has, and then they get matched, and then that
Oh,
allows you to get
well,
in.
that's actually how that works. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always actually thought it was at the browser level, but shows
No,
how much I know.
because I am requesting, or like when we talk about logging in on doing conversions, I'll log in on my Windows machine using the same login that I've set up a passkey for, and it asks for the passkey, and I don't have it because I'm not using my Mac, right? So I can't use my fingerprint on my other computer because it's stored on my other device, right? So you can't use passkeys in that regard. So it is actually is a little bit more secure. But in that case, I have to sign in using the password, which then sends the multi-factor authentication code, and then I'm able to get in.
Because you can bypass the passkey. That's usually what I do, and then I'll request the code, and that's fine. I'm so used to requesting codes many times per day that it's just like part of my existence now.
But in the grand scheme of things, multi-factor authentication and two-step verification are still reliant on the current login method, which is providing a password, and that is still susceptible, right?
A lot of them now you can do the authenticator, which actually I prefer.
Yeah, there's a fourth thing.
I feel like it's more secure, and therefore it is.
The authenticator app.
It makes me feel that way.
Yeah, especially if you're using Google, because Google is really good about proving who you are.
Yeah.
Which is annoying that you have to go into a YouTube app or open up something.
Open up your Gmail app. Yeah.
Exactly. But those types of things are just those extra steps to, again, prove who you are, and presumably those devices or those applications you would have access to. But again, if your login is compromised, regardless of where it is, even with Google, that is only as secure as that login that you have.
It's true, because a lot of times even the authenticator, you can say, although I don't know if once it's set up that you're using authenticator, can you go back to say, no, I just want to put in password? No, I don't think you can do that. I know in the setup, you can say, no, I just want to stick with password and I don't want to use an authenticator. But I don't know if you can go, if somebody can just say, you know what, like somebody can get a hold of my account and then go, no, you know what, I decided I don't want to use the authenticator. I just want to go back to using a password. I don't know. Can you do that?
I believe you can. I'm going to double check that when we're done. I'm not going to sign in because now I was doing a video or editing a video that I did a long time ago, and I realized that my social security number was in the YouTube video. I'm like, oh my goodness, anytime anything is involving me signing in, I probably don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I went back and blurred it out. Those bad actors are like, okay, what video was that? It's already obfuscated. All right. We ended up spending 25 minutes talking about something that I just wanted to chat about. And,
but that is really important, though, because
is super important.
If something like that were to happen and somebody got into your QBO, account, that could be total disaster. And I take my access to many different accounts very seriously. So for me, that's a very big deal.
Yeah, and there's best practices of using just a unique email address for your QuickBooks. Best practices of using a unique password for everything. Don't use the same thing as you do all the time, because one password then leads to others and all of those things. But yes, safeguard your data, because it's not just your data, it's your client's data. If you're a pro advisor or accounting professional in QuickBooks Online, because they could feasibly have access to that, because you are the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and that's why I always say use a password manager. Don't scribble passwords on a Post-it, people.
Yeah. Okay, so let's now talk about the topic that we were supposed to talk about, which is all about the migration or the change to modern view reports here. I've shared a couple Firm of the Future articles in the comments, so you can go in and check on those. But the main thing is, why is this even happening, right? So this is not the first time that reports have undergone a change, right? And as I was there, it was probably like the third or fourth time that reports have undergone an overhaul inside of QuickBooks Online. But you know what? The people that are complaining today are not complaining about the original version of reports that got an upgrade, right? So this is what happens, is that every time that it changes, there is an outcry of, this is pointless. This is, why are we changing things that aren't broke? And then they don't see the value of it because it's basically a step backwards, because, and I think we mentioned that a little earlier or before, about the modern view doesn't have the same values as the classic view. And so, of course, if you see a profit and loss in one view as opposed to another, and they've got different numbers, which one's right? Like, how do you know? Like, that is
I can already see some of the little descriptions underneath advanced, and I'm like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah. So the big thing, and the whole reason of why this change is happening to begin with, is because large reports can't be run, right? So inevitably, every year we would get, around tax time, we would get accountants calling in to Intuit, and I'm trying to run a general ledger report, which is basically every transaction in their QuickBooks, and it stops, right? And they can't even send it to Excel. So the workaround was, okay, you got to send it to, you got to do a shorter time period and send that to Excel, do another time period, send that to Excel, and that was the typical response that I got when
like, that's the worst thing ever.
Because here's the thing about QuickBooks Online, there is no way to purge old data, right? So as you're entering in QuickBooks Online data into QuickBooks Online, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There is no condense, right, or purge off old information like there is in desktop. They have to make things bigger, right? Like, it's just, what you do with computers when you fill them up with pictures, right? You don't go through and delete old pictures. Well, you just get another computer or another hard drive or whatever, right? That's the same thing that's happening with data inside of QuickBooks Online, is that we're just trying to, I keep saying we, I still work there. Intuit is trying to make it more usable. So when you are running a really large report, the classic reports would either stop, and it would just say load more at the bottom, and then you'd load more, and eventually you get to a point where I'm out of room.
Right? That's so frustrating.
Right? So modern reports are solving that, right? So the speed of which reports are being run, regardless of the amount of data, modern reports are answering that. And while they're at it, they are basically unlocking a lot of things that accountants and bookkeepers and power users of QuickBooks have been asking for a long time.
Really? Because I'm looking at that list, not in advance, but just in the regular, and I don't care about those things. Okay, the reason I say that is because it's not doing anything that, like, I really would need. It's not giving me a custom report, which is what I really want more than anything. And I would still have to use some kind of external app if I didn't have advanced for spreadsheet sync. And although I do the convert reports into pivot tables, that's really cool. But expanded view and compact view and optimized view, I don't care about that.
Yeah. It depends, right? Like how you using reports. So yeah, so for across all online products, this is probably for Plus, Essentials, Ledger, and Simple Start, right? This is probably where most people are running into what WTF, why are we doing this, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
they're not seeing the value of that, because a lot of the cool stuff is in QuickBooks Online Advanced, right?
Yeah. And I already have clients that want that. They don't say, oh, can I have an expanded view? No, they want customization. They want to be able to rearrange things in the way that they need, and something that I know can be done easily into an app plugged into QBO. Why would I not recommend that? You know what I mean? It's going to solve their problem.
The coolest thing that I like about modern reports is the ability to group and total and subgroup.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that that was really lacking, that you couldn't really. You could either total by, right, like you could group by in the classic view by one thing.
Yeah.
So if you wanted subtotals, you were relying solely on the report if it did that or not. If it gave you,
or just export it into Excel, which is always a pain because then you have to reformat it.
Exactly.
But yeah, that is helpful. I like that.
Right. And being able to add columns and rearrange them. I think the user interface of customizing the report is a little bit more cleaner. And because you will have, especially in advanced, in advanced, you're going to have a lot more customization or column options. Now, that being said, the columns aren't always usable, right? So just like any report that's inside of QuickBooks, it really depends on what side of the transaction you're looking at, of whether that's even usable, right? Probably the easiest example is this. This is a desktop thing, but there is a column in desktop called source name, right? Which, if you are looking at the line item detail of transactions, source name will always be blank because the source is the source. It's the actual name. So source name actually does bring in that customer, right? If you're running reports that look at invoices, it will bring in the customer name that's on the source of the transaction because it is there, right? So that's one of those fields or columns that if you could see name and source name and they say the exact same thing, but if you're looking at that source side of the transaction, of course you're looking at the same thing, right? So that's one of those things that if you are looking at certain reports, columns that are in there that say full account name or distribution account name, or like, what does that actually mean? That's one of the things that while we're in this transition period, which just has started from last July and still is not finished.
Okay.
So we're in this grace period of, you'll still potentially be able to see things in classic reporting view, and you may see some things that are only in modern view. So you'll see a smattering of reports that are in classic view versus the reports that are in modern view. And if they don't have the same information on them, then it's frustrating. It's understandably frustrating.
Does it have the does it mention anything about the what Does it give you more options for export?
Yeah, and you definitely will have more options in advanced, where you can send it to Google Sheets, or you can send it to
That's right, what I
spreadsheet
wanted to
sync.
touch on, because I feel like I never know if it's a right tool thing or if it's actually in QBO, but yeah, that I remember. Yeah, you can export to Google Sheets now, and
Mhm.
yeah, QBO accountant we have advanced, so yes, you can do that, but I guess you can't do that in the lower ones.
You can't send it to Google Sheets. No,
No
you
Google
can.
Sheets. Okay,
Yeah, you can send it to Excel, or you can send it to CSV, and then
or
you've got a
PDF.
file.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can put that into your Google Sheets at that point. It's
Okay.
just some extra time. But here's a link to an article that's available from this article that I shared about what's changed in utilizing the modern reports as best you can. But this is one of those things that we're not going to hold on to classic reports. So there's too much at stake with regards to needing to go to modern reports. It's really very similar to like the new invoice experience, right? When we
Yeah.
talked about that a couple months ago, you're not going to stop it from changing, right? And unfortunately, because it's something that accountants, bookkeepers, and pro advisors use on the regular, it's going to be a nuisance. Just like the whole new user interface thing, right? So all of those things at the same time is pretty maddening, I think, to folks, because the last thing you want to do is learn something new when you're trying to find a quick answer for your client, or something like
Yeah.
that. Okay, where is it? I can't even find it to bring it up. Or certain reports in the classic view had the credit and debit column already there, or very easily to find. In the modern view, it's now taking 5 extra seconds to add the credit and debit columns. That would drive Hector Garcia bonkers, because
Yeah.
it's
But
all about saving precious seconds with Hector.
yeah, if all else fails, and if it doesn't do what you like, it's QuickBooks Online, and you can
Mhm.
always plug in something different. And that's why I love it, because you don't have to do all the things inside QBO if you don't want to.
Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of reporting add-ons that you can use or integrate into your QuickBooks to that wouldn't change at the same rate as account as
Yeah.
Intuit would at their mercy.
And some of these, you can do managerial accounting, which I'm in the middle of right now, and
Ah,
it is very complex. Yeah, and that's certain things you can't do in QuickBooks Online reporting, even in fancy advanced.
yeah. So what do you think about, anybody that's watching, what do you think about the new modern reports? Do you like them? Use them? Tell us some successes. Tell Intuit the things that are needed. They do respond to feedback. They've just got a lot of people to talk to, right? Or to listen, right? So there's millions of people that are putting in feedback. Make sure your feedback is actionable, replicatable, and duplicatable, because they can't fix what they can't duplicate. And if it's just a temporary thing, it'll go away with the next time that you reset your temporary internet files, and lo and behold, you'll get a MFA code for that when you sign in. So see how we just tied all that together and put it in a bow for you. All right.
Cool.
So next week, again, I don't have my schedule up, but
I can look.
what are we doing next week?
QuickBooks Accountant Tool
Oh, yeah.
updates.
Yeah. So we'll talk about some of the new things that are in
I love accountant tools.
QBOA, accounting for QuickBooks Online Accountant. And we hope you all have a great week ahead, and we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of Workshop Wednesday, brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion and took away some valuable tips and strategies to enhance your bookkeeping practice. Remember, if you want to stay ahead in the world of bookkeeping and accounting, be sure to visit Schoolofbookkeeping.com. With a wide range of courses, resources, and expert guidance, you'll find everything you need to sharpen your skills and boost your career. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. Your reviews help us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content every week. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, reach out to us on social media or send us an email at support@schoolofbookkeeping.com. We love hearing from our listeners and are always looking for new ideas to explore. Thanks for tuning in to Workshop Wednesday. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep excelling in your bookkeeping journey. I'm Dan DeLong, and we'll see you next week.